What a world, big prophet jewel of the day. So today, I got a big one for y'all. This could be a game changer for a lot of people. You know what I mean? So I hope this can help. I know this was a game changer for me. It just cracked my mind wide open and I start seeing everything differently. But let's get to it because we got a lot to discuss. This I'm calling the narcissist versus the empath. The polarity of disharmony, because this is all about physics. This is all about energy. This is based on the laws of the universe and how we create balance, how we balance one another. It creates a polarity, right? So let's begin. Let's start with definitions first. Narcissist. What is a narcissist? That starts off with the Greek story about this man named Narcissus who kept staring at his reflection in the water, and he was like, oh, I'm so beautiful, I'm so fine, I just can't stop looking at myself. I'm just so, I'm so fine, I'm so beautiful. And then he started looking deeper and deeper, and it's like, such beauty. I just can't get enough of myself. I just gotta get a better look and a better look. And then he fell into the water and drowned, right? So that was used as an analogy to describe the psychological phenomenon which we now call narcissism, right? So that's just someone that needs external validation to sustain us inflated sense of self or ego, right? They need people to constantly big them up. They need people to show them love, to make them think that they're better than everybody else or better than others. They can't be just equal to others. They have to be better, right? And when I was reading a book on narcissism and empaths, they said this comes from a mother wound, where their mother or their caregiver or their parent neglected them in some way. Emotionally, they did not make them feel safe, or they didn't give them the attention they needed, so they needed to become important to get this source of connection that they lacked when they were a child or a baby. You understand me? So they were lacking this attention and this connection that they got from a child. So in order for them to feel important, they need external source of validation. They need someone from the outside telling them that they're the best. So they need adulation. They need that from the crowd. They need people to show them love. So they try to find that through success. They try to find that through stardom or being the best. Then they feel like they're worthy. But at the same time, they also will try to hold down others to maintain this inflated sense of self. Now, let's speak on the empath. The empath always gets the good rap, right? There's the narcissist and then there's the empath. Everybody feels bad for the empath because the empath seems like a good person. They try to help, they show love, they care about everybody, they feel everybody else's feelings. But guess what? They have the same wound. But their strategy to heal it, instead of the inflated sense of self, for them to feel important, they figured, hey, if I could do this, then they'll show me the love and the attention, and then I'll be important, and then I'll be worthy of love. So secretly, the empath is just as manipulative in order to receive love. But now I have to introduce the next factor in this thing, which is the levels of consciousness. So we're a lot more conscious when we're not in pain. When we're suffering, we will react unconsciously. We will do things that we necessarily wouldn't if we were in a better mood or a better state of mind. When we are in pain, if we're in a state of mind or a level of consciousness where we are consumed with our pain or our suffering, then we will not behave with the same consideration towards others. We will be so consumed in our pain that we will do things that are not as evolved as we should be. We're not as considerate. We think about ourselves. We're a lot more egotistical, right? Because it comes from that pain, and that pain brings down our level of consciousness. The higher that we are in this level of consciousness, the more we consider others. The happier we are, the more we can do in life. If we're suffering, we're not going to feel like doing much, right? But when we're happy, we take care of ourselves more. We take care of others more, right? Now, let's look at these two. They are both suffering, but they are on different levels of consciousness. They're not much higher than one another. One is only focused on themselves and what they can get. The next is focused on others, but it's also for what they can get. Alright? So now, the whole reason why I started this jewel and creating this jewel and formulating it was so I could have a visual representation, so I could see and understand visually what this dynamic of narcissism is. And also, let me pull back before I continue. Narcissism is not a thing that, oh, this is a bad person, this person is a narcissist. A lot of people, especially women, throw that word around. They throw around a lot of these words at people without fully understanding these things or doing the research to comprehend what these words mean. Narcissism is a factor in society. Everybody is narcissistic. Society itself is narcissistic. Just like it's racist, just like it's sexist, just like it's capitalist, or there's all these different levels of these things. Or, you know, society itself is that, but individuals are at varying degrees of this. We are all at different levels of racist or sexist or narcissist. You know, and sometimes we might be on the flip side of the coin, but it still exists in our condition of being human beings in this society, right? As long as there's an ego, there's going to be some narcissism there. And we all have an ego, whether it's on the empathic side or the narcissistic side, right? But let me continue. I'm going to use the image of a yin-yang symbol, right? So the narcissistic side, I will use the black side of the yin-yang symbol, the yang part, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But the black part has a little circle in it that's white, that light, right? And then the white side of the yin-yang symbol has a black circle in it. It's that darkness. So this darkness is the void of light. And that light is harmony. Right? Okay? But I want to make a distinction, because even though that empath seeks harmony, it does not have the harmony completely within itself. So the light that it emits is only a reflection of the harmony that it seeks outwardly, because the empath does not have harmony within or herself. They have disharmony within inside of themselves. They seek it externally. They seek harmony externally to validate themselves, to have some semblance of harmony within themselves. Right? I went on the wrong exit. Anyways, they try to change things around them. They try to make other people happy so they can feel important, so they can feel worthy of love. You see, you got the narcissists. They're saying, if you love me, then I can love you. And then the empath is saying, if I love you, then you can love me. You know, but the problem is they both lack love within themselves. So how are they ever going to find love within themselves? And that's why I use the yin yang symbol, because those small circles within each half show the void of self-love, the void of harmony, right? So, or the black shows the void of any light, any harmony. It has no harmony. So let's put this back in context again. So the narcissist, the black half of the yin yang. The black represents disharmony. They will put disharmony to create harmony within themselves. So they will separate themselves. They will make themselves feel bigger to create a separation. And they will separate so their ego could get this illusion of harmony. If they love me, if I'm better than them, then I could feel like I'm worthy. I could feel like I'm enough. You understand me? So that's what it boils down to for them. And then the empath, they're trying to find out for themselves, hey, what can I do for you to love me? So I could turn my disharmony inside of myself and have an illusion of harmony, right? Because inside themselves, they have a void. And it's like this black hole that can never be consumed, because they try to illuminate everyone else with this harmony that they don't have. So they can't reflect the light into themselves. It's just never enough. But because the external validation is so important to them, that's the only light they could get. And that's the only way they could get some kind of energy. But if someone tries to consume any kind of light that they can't even generate, they get drained. You understand me? So that's why empaths end up getting drained by the narcissist. So you meet someone that's saying, hey, if you love me, I can love you. And that person meets the person that says, if I love you, you can love me. They create a polarity. They think that they're getting love, but they're not. It's not a real love, because it's not coming from within. They're both serving each other. And the empath is like, hey, I can help this person. I can help this person. And that will give me worth. That will give me purpose. That will keep me needed. And that will keep this person loving me. And that's what this is all about. This dynamic gets created. Now, yes, the empath, because they consider others around them, they are more conscious than the narcissist that's only focused on themselves. So they are closer, and it would be easier for them to become a more integrated whole person. All they have to do is turn the love that they turn outwardly in on themselves. If they start healing themselves like they heal everybody else, they can become more whole. Now that's the key for the empath. Otherwise, the narcissist will continue finding ways to expand their void. They will expand your void, and they will expand their own void, until even the dynamic flips, where the empath feels a complete void of self. They no longer have any energy, and then they're completely looking for external source of validation, and not just by serving others, by others pouring into them. They need others to pour into them now, because they have no energy to pour into someone else. And it's not going to be the narcissist trying to pour into them. They're still going to keep doing it. They're going to keep looking for external sources of validation, because they don't have any kind of source of light. They're devoid of light. And the only light they can get is the reflection of others pouring into them. Alright? So, let's continue. So I was starting to come up with a solution for the empath. I was saying the empath has to turn the love that it pours into others and pour into itself. Start working out on your taking care of your health. Start journaling. Start doing things that you love. You know, you see people that start taking care of their child, their inner child and shit. As an adult, they're doing things that they were neglected, that they didn't have. That's how you do it, right? So you start healing parts of yourself that you were neglecting. You start becoming whole. Then you start loving yourself. But guess what? If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they cannot handle that. You know why? Because you're throwing off the equilibrium. How can they maintain a balance when they can't get their source of light from you anymore? Your source of light is from within, and if you aren't looking towards them to get your reflection of light by pouring into them, you're not getting a source of light that is a reflection of a reflection. You're getting a source of light that comes from within. So you're not going to look for a reflection of light. You're going to have a self-sustaining source of light from within yourself. And that's why you start seeing people having a glow up when they start pouring into themselves. Now, on the flip side, how can a narcissist become whole? Now, I'm going to use an example, and I don't want this to be taken out of context or whatever, right? But let's look at, I see I Show Speed. This guy blowing up. I remember as a kid, he just seemed like a weirdo, and he was doing all these weird things for attention, right? I don't know this guy. I don't know if he's a narcissist, but I think everybody's a narcissist on some level or some shit. But I've seen this kid mature so much, because he went from just being in his room and doing all this weird shit for attention to being in the public and meeting people, and he's doing all these different things for people. He's doing so much charity and philanthropic adventures, taking care of people, and he has matured so much. I think it just created such a holistic growth for this guy. He's become integrated as a whole person. He cares about others. He feels not only the level of importance from other people showing him love, but he feels important by being able to help others the way that the empath does. So he's getting both sides of the spectrum. He's getting the love that he was yearning for the importance, and he's getting the love from pouring into others. It's one of the most incredible things, and you seeing how much wisdom he's gotten and how caring he is. He seems just like a very genuine person, and there's so much more depth to how he's acting. I'm seeing all these kids that are just, their life is changing so dramatically, and they're getting thrust into this position where they were just kids, but now they've integrated so much into society and helping so many different people that you mature quickly, rapidly, because you're taking care of so much others. You realize it's not just about you, and it's not just about you helping them. Your worth isn't them just pouring into you, it's you pouring back into them. So it's a cycle, and you're not doing it as a void. There's no void in you anymore, because you're part of something. And that's what it really boils down to. We all want importance. We all want to be part of something. And that's the problem, is the ego and the separation. And it's this whole dualism thing where it's like, as soon as Eve ate the apple in this analogy or this story or this metaphor, or whether it's real or not, Eve ate the apple from the tree of good and bad. As soon as she did that, boom, it's either good or bad. Everything's good or bad. Everything's light or dark. There's left or right. Everything, there's two sides, and you have to pick one, black or white. It's all dual. Everything's dualistic. It's two sides, everything, right? And nobody looks at the whole anymore, right? We're all separate now. We're not one. There's no more whole. There's just pieces. Everything got shattered, and then it's this illusion of separation, right? And that's what the whole thing was. That's what the whole lie was. And we live in a society where we don't think of ourselves as part of the whole. We just think ourselves as separate, and that's where this importance comes from, and that's where ego comes from, where we have this need to be important, and that comes from a lack of connectivity. We are important if we're part of something, and that's where our importance should come from, not from we're better than anybody. What's the sense of that? You know, like, what are we going to do if we're better than somebody? And any success comes from others. We can't have success without others. We need others to have success. And our success feeds others. Our success inspires others. Our success builds others and gives others more opportunity. The most successful businessmen, they create opportunities for others. And not only that, they change the world and make these opportunities make advancements for our lives to improve. And because our lives improves, we spend more money on these things that improve our lives, and that gives them more success. So it's a circular dynamic. We feed off of one another. If we could create something that feeds others, and those others will feed us, and we could keep this cycle going. And it's a polarity, and this is physics. This is energy. This is how electricity works. It's a circuit. We feed into each other. But this whole dynamic of narcissism and empaths, this is not a good or bad thing. They're both bad if you want to talk about it, because neither of them are whole. Neither of them are ideal. Neither of them are the real thing. They're both fake. You know, one might be a little bit higher on the scale of consciousness, and they care more about others But at the same time, they're only doing it because they have this hole inside. And they're trying to seek the same thing that the narcissist is. External validation. It all boils back to the same thing. They want love from outside of themselves because they have no love inside of themselves. They haven't learned to love themselves yet. You know? So, I say all that to say the narcissist needs to learn to love others the way that the empath does, and pour into others the way that it wants others to pour into it or to them, right? So once the narcissist could pour into others the way that it wants the world to pour into them, then they could be extremely powerful. And they could be as important as they ever want to be, but they'll realize that it's not just about them. The only importance that they have is to help others, right? And then the empath will realize once it starts pouring into himself or herself that they can't help as many people as they want to until they start taking care of themselves. Their impact is going to be small until they start pouring into themselves first. Then they can really help more and have much bigger impact, broader impact. But they can't get none of that as long as their source of light is external and it's only a reflection of others. It's short-lived and it's not real. You understand me? They always will end up getting used. All these things will be short-term, you know? And then they'll keep putting themselves in these dynamics where people will use them and manipulate them. All right, so I wanted to explain these things. I want to encapsulate all this. I want to put it in a format that is easy to understand, can visualize it, and can help people, because we keep putting ourselves in these dynamics, not realizing how to get out. I see people say, "Oh yeah, once a narcissist is a narcissist, there's no helping them." And dude, yeah, you can't help them. They have to learn this shit for themselves. But I don't want someone that's on the narcissist side of the spectrum thinking that they're hopeless. You can find a way out. You can find a way. And there's always ways to grow. It's not no fucking death sentence if you were a narcissist. You can find a way to elevate and grow. You know? And you're not an evil person. All this shit is unconscious, and that's why I say the higher level of consciousness, you're able to think of others. But when you're in pain, you unconsciously do a bunch of bullshit. You hurt people unconsciously if you're not healed. That's not your intention. The empath's intention isn't to manipulate people. They don't realize they are manipulative, and neither does the narcissist. You know? But guess what? That's because they're not healed yet. That's because they were using strategies that they built as a child, and the child didn't have, as genius as the child that created these strategies was, they didn't understand the complexities or the ramifications of their actions. And now that you get older, you have to start thinking about outside of yourself, or you have to start thinking inside of yourself. And that's what this all is about. How do you validate yourself? How do you honor yourself? How do you love yourself? How do you validate others? How do you consider others? How do you just live a life on a level where there's balance, where you are in harmony, you're creating harmony, and it's not at the cost of anybody. It's not at the cost of relationships. You understand me? So I hope this helps. I hope this brings clarity, and I hope you understand if you're in a dynamic where this narcissist empathic dynamic and polarity of disharmony, you step back, you step away, pour into yourself, and understand if you're married to someone or you're in a relationship or you're in a family and you start pouring into yourself as an empath, anticipate that there will be some blowback for it, because you're throwing off the equilibrium of a dynamic that has been sustained for however long. This is an energetic, unconscious reaction to compensate for the energy that they lost. You understand me? So it's like if you're trying to lift up a weight and it slips out your fingers, your hand still goes flying up. That wasn't a conscious thing to send your hand flying up, right? It was a compensation because you're used to pulling this weight up, and then your hand just flies up naturally. And that's kind of like what that compensation does, you know, because you're used to holding this extra weight. And when that shit gets dropped on somebody, don't be surprised if they react unconsciously. I don't know if that was a good analogy, it just came to me, but still, we just react to things and we compensate energetically without even thinking about it, right? That's part of being a person, a human, yo. So step back, clear your head, pour into yourself, pour into others, but don't pour in a place coming from the void of having no self-love. Love yourself, love others, work on yourself, keep growing. We all growing. We all babies at the end of the day, but things get more complicated and more complex. So all we can do is just get more advanced. And then each one teach one, you know, and that's what all this is about. So nothing but love, blessings. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.